Okay, so welcome to another episode of Elite Psyche, the mental toughness show. Here on the Elite Psyche show, we interview people that we consider elite, and also we know that any individuals that are elite, they have to go through challenges, and during those challenges, you have to be mentally tough. So we talk about those things also, and we know that anybody who's winning in life have been through those things. So I want to jump right in today and introduce a friend of mine up in Cleveland, Ohio. Her name is Angela Harrell, and Angela is a high school teacher at the historic Shaker Heights and up in Cleveland. And I'm gonna say this right off the bat. I had to put my foot in my mouth because 6 years ago, she started something, and I told her, I said, Angela, that's a great program. I said, people need it, it's good. I said, but your high school gonna shut it down as soon as you start talking about it. I said, and here it is 6 years later, and she's still rocking and rolling. So I'm gonna jump right in. I want her to just kind of talk about what you're doing and some of the programs that you offer. And what you're teaching in the classroom that I kind of said, I don't think that was going to work. So,
yeah, awesome. So, yes, about 6 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now, the state of Ohio has said, students needed 4 credits of math. And, traditionally you would do algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. And then most people were done. And those who were going into maybe science majors, where I call the smarty pants, would be going into a trig or pre-calculus class. And so I was just like, it's not everyone who needs calculus or trigonometry, but everybody needs to know about money and finances. And so I went to the school with some other teachers at that time, but it was basically a drive that I was like, we need to have a financial algebra course. Can this count for their 4th credit of math? And at the time, our superintendent was very on board. He's no longer in our district anymore, but he was like, sure, let's do it. Let's run it. And so I didn't even teach it that first year. I helped, with the curriculum, but I started the second year that it was at Shaker. And we may have had 3 sections. So that's maybe about, maybe it was a little under 60 students that were taking the class, and it has developed. So in my classroom, I teach all of those topics that people say, they don't teach that in high school. And I'm like, well, I do. So I start off the year, and I've been doing this. So I just ended my 29th year of teaching. So next year will be my 30th year teaching. But every year, for as long as I've been teaching, I always start my students off with a vision board. And so we do a vision board, and we do a vision for that school year. Like, what are you going to accomplish this year? And then we do a vision board for the future, right? And so it's surprisingly, most students don't think about their lives as they have something to do with it. They just look at I just do what my parents tell me to do. This is what I have. But, I teach seniors. So I'm like, okay, now your life is yours. What decisions your parents made, the house that you live in, all of those different things were because of past decisions your parents made. And now you have the opportunity to make decisions for yourself that would have you, have your life pan out the way it's supposed to be. So I start the year off with a vision board, and then I give them a personality test, which is also surprising that, at age 17, 18, we ask students a lot. Like, we expect them to know what they're going to do for the rest of their life. We'll say, we'll ask kids about, oh, what college are you going to? Or what's going to be your major? At 18, probably none of us really knew what we were going to do. But have we given any direction to students to, this is what you should do? So I give them a personality test that kind of matches up their personality and jobs and what job they would want to have. And that is surprising that at, seniors in high school, this is the first time that they've ever done this. But they do this personality test. And then from that personality test, it spits out jobs that would be good for whatever they put in this survey. And they can look up and say whether or not, if they didn't want any college, So if it was a trade, or what can you do with this, with your personality and no college, or what about a 2-year degree, or what about a 4-year degree, and it goes on. So you pick a job or a profession based on your personality exam. So that's what you do first. And from that, then we go into our unit of budgeting. And because they get a career, they get what this career is for a beginning salary. And we take them through the process of banking. Like, what are banks? What's a checking account? What's a high yield savings account? Where should you put your money? How do you do that? How do you budget your money? How do you get an apartment? How do you, how do you say this is the amount I'm going to have for food or for cars? And then from that, we're talking about apartments and cars, and it just lends itself right to talking to them about credit scores. And so, because I was like, in order for you to get an apartment, a lot of times they will run your credit. And a lot of times, to get a car, if you're trying to get a car, because the kids would be like, oh, for my first car, I want to get a BMW. I'm like, well, can you afford that? On the career that you chose and the amount of money that you have now. And let's talk about this credit score. And I give them real life examples about things happening that they may need to use money for, but how do you use credit? How do you use a credit card? What happens when you go to, say, Nordstrom's, and they say, oh, we'll give you 20% off if you get this credit card today. And we talk about, how to maintain their credit scores, what is it about? We give them different scenarios in the classroom, and they're, using that in their budget unit. So they learn a lot when that first unit. So they learn about banking, they learn about credit, they learn about applying for applications for apartments. We actually fill them out and look at agreements and what happens if you have a roommate that's not agreeable. We talk about all those things in our first half of the year. Then we go to, because most of my students by the end of the unit realize that the amount of money they're making from a job is not going to get them the lifestyle they want. So we take that unit, and then I start talking to them about investing. And so we go into investing into the stock market. I have them look at different stocks, their market cap. How do you look up a company? How do you decide if you want to buy or if this is a good time to buy? We look at what the profit margins would be if we would have invested in this company in the last 4 years. What's our return of investment? If that was the case, if we were to put $1,000 into a company, and what would it have been over the last 5 years? So we go through a whole budget. We go through the budget, but then we go through the investment part now. And then I talk to them about retirement accounts. I talk to them about the rule of 72, right? We talk to them about, in our investment unit, we go through, what's an IRA, what's a traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA. If you were to start one, at 18, how much would you have when you're 25, 35, 55, right? So I have them look at that. I'll talk to them about dollar cost averaging. I talk to them about crypto, because crypto is definitely going to be in their future. So you're talking about students who are 18 years old, and what does it mean to get involved in crypto? So we talk about that in the investment unit as well. So then from investing, we move.
Wait a minute. It's two things, because I know I'm going to forget, even though I wrote them down when you said it. You said that you go over the rule of 72 with them.
Yes.
What do they think about that when they hear it?
They don't, I don't know if they have any thoughts about the rule of 72. I think that a lot of the topics that we teach, they go home and say, Mom, do you know this? Because it's never been.
I was 30 years old before I heard about the rule of 72, and it just blew me away. I'm thinking, what? So they didn't think that the banks would give them more money, or they just didn't think about money at that time? I guess in high school, you're not really thinking about, huh?
You're not really. I do have some students who think about money. What blows their mind more than anything is it makes a difference where you put your money.
Okay.
So that you have a brick and mortar bank that may give you a savings account interest of 0.01%. And then you have a high yield savings account that may give you 5.5%. And it's still a savings account. And so it just blows their mind. So they're like, wait a minute, if not knowing like the where to put my money makes a difference. And I'm like, yes. Like they were like, what's the difference in the savings account? Isn't it just a savings account? So I think that's because they hear stuff like savings and things like that from their parents, but their parents don't know that information. And so, a lot of their parents or even grandparents are, they want a brick and mortar bank so I can go in and make deposits. But that's not really the world that our 18-year-olds are going into. They're going into a world that is totally computerized, and they're very comfortable with things being on the computer. And so where you may have a parent that's not comfortable with it, with their money being on an online bank, but these 18-year-olds need to know that if you have a bank account like an Ally or SoFi or Chime or even Robinhood, has a savings account portion to it, that you could be making more money on your money just because of where you put it.
Wow. What did you title this class?
Financial algebra.
And so they get an hour a day of this 5 days a week?
Yeah, so we're on blocks. So they meet with me 2 or 3 times a week, and then the class periods are about 90 minutes. So
wow. You got them for 90 minutes 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm. So like one week it'll be 2 times, the next week it'll be 3, like, so we kind of alternate. So
and you talk about crypto?
Oh yeah. Yes.
I told you, I really put my foot in my mouth. I told you, though, I said, that's great, Angela. It sounds good. They really need it, but they ain't gonna let you keep doing that. I didn't think they would let you go a week or 2, and it's been 6 years.
Yeah, so it's really good. It's really great. So, and it's really, there's no other platform that I think I would have a captive audience for as much time as I have them. So yes, I teach my classes to adults. So that's kind of where it has like evolved to, because a lot of the parents are saying like, hey, we want to do this. So I was like, oh, I'm going to turn this into a business. So people want to buy it. Right. But you'll be amazed that even like my budgeting class, people won't take, I first started that class off like with a 3-day class. And people are like, oh, that's too much time. I don't have that much time. Right. So now it's a 1-day course that I'll do, and I'll have people, it's still slow. It's growing. Yes. But I don't have as many people to sign up as I would like to, sign up. They tell me that, oh, I need this, but then they don't sign up for the class. Where else, other than being in a high school, that I could have this much time talking about finances and really like drill it into the students. So that's why I always say this is my my legacy work. This is my dash, because that not only these students are 18 years old, they go home and they teach their parents. And then when they go and have children, guess what? They're going to already have this knowledge, because I didn't, like you said, I didn't have most of this knowledge until some of the knowledge that I'm teaching them now, I didn't have till I was way over 40. So that is like, I do a whole unit on taxes. And
wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute. Let's back up. I know I interrupted you in the middle of your flow. So you were talking about the sections in it. Let's go back to that, because I don't know if you remember where you stopped.
Yeah, so we do the investment piece. And so we'll do what I call traditional investing in the equities market, and then also talking about crypto. And then from that unit, we go to our taxes unit, because now I've taught them about, you have a job, you can get an apartment. I taught them about the credit scores. I've taught them now about investing. So what's the next thing? You're going to have to pay some taxes on that profit. So that's the next thing we talk about is taxes. And we talk about taxes, and I talk about the brackets. I talk about standard deductions and credits. We go to irs.gov and we go and really go through like what makes a deduction, where does deduction come off, what are the tax brackets. And so I'm really doing algebra in this, because this is nothing more than an algebraic formula. Where most people think about tax brackets, they think all of your money is being taxed at the same, rate. Like, oh, I'm in this percentage. And that's not true. Like, you may be in 3 different tax brackets, which is nothing more than a piecewise formula. I know I'm getting math technical,
Right.
but it's nothing more than an algebraic formula on how you do that. But most people have no clue about how your taxes work. And so in a traditional algebra course that even my students have gone through maybe in their 8th or 9th grade year, that by law, you have to know the quadratic formula, Pythagorean theorem. They're tested on the state test on those things. But, how many people are really going to ever use that? Like, very few, right? Some engineers, maybe some cute computer science people, maybe the people who make McDonald's arches, but that's about it, right?
Right.
But that's like, but the tax formula is an algebraic formula as well. And that should be by law taught because everybody by law has to file taxes. Not everybody has to go and build a bridge, right? And so, but those things are not taught to the masses. And so I actually make sure that my students understand the tax brackets, how, the difference between standard deductions and then credits and how do you get them. And then that leads itself because when we're in the tax world, my students start reading about all these deductions that you can get when you're a business owner. And so then the next step is to do what? Make sure that all of my students have businesses. And so they have to come up with a business that they can launch within 2 years. And it has to be something that can be launched in 2 years. And I make it that way because most people, when you think about a business, you want to think about a grand, big corporation. And where it can be something very, very small, right? It could be that you make candles in your kitchen and now you have a business. And so they ask me, like, if I just, make candles in my kitchen, I can get these deductions. Well, yes, you can. Right? According to law, you have a business now.
Right.
And so that's why I make it so it has to be a business that can be launched in 2 years. And so they go through, they develop a business plan. They have to have an expense report that they're going to be their expenses for the next 3 years. And then their projected sales report for their projected profit report for the next 2 years. And they have to create an elevator pitch that they could give, and it's recorded that they could give to an investor if someone wanted to invest in their business. So that's kind of how we end the year. We end the year with insurance and talk about insurances as well. But the business unit is one that I just love because their creativity, things that I thought would not like just blow up. And some of my students from taking my course and being in my classroom, like now after they leave, they have become millionaires. So
that's what I was going to ask you, because I remember when I met with you up in Cleveland, and you vaguely said something about 2 people have become millionaires that was in your classroom.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, how long have they been away from the high school? Did they go to college or they went straight into?
They didn't go. Well, I think the one young lady, she did go to college, and the young man that I know, he did not go to college.
Okay.
And so that's why I said, like, he was in my classroom, and his business idea was to sell do-rags. And he really was blowing off the assignment. He didn't want to do the assignment. I would say that he was like maybe a DC student, and he didn't want to do it. And he was just like, and I was like, no, you have to have a business. You got to come up with something. And he's like, I'm gonna sell do-rags. I said, okay, fantastic. You're selling do-rags. So where are you getting
you might want to let our followers know. Some people might not know what do-rags are. They know what bonnets are though, but they don't know
what do-rags are.
Okay.
Now too.
Explain what do-rag is.
The do-rag, now do-rags have been forever. So I don't think that they're even as common now as they were 5 years ago. But that's when the guys would wrap their hair up to like get the waves. And that's what kind of was. It was it was a scarf, but it was like for men.
You wear it under your football helmet too. All the athletes do that a lot too.
Yep, that's exactly right. So
he started a business with that.
He did, and so that's why I said that. I remember the day when he kind of like, I was like, he's like, I'm selling do-rags, and I was like, okay, fantastic, we're selling do-rags. So, who are you getting your product from? How much are you buying it for? How much you're going to sell it for? What's your profit margin? What's your marketing strategy? And how are you going? What are you going to do? And what's the how much profit you plan on making in your first 6 months? That's the conversation I started having with him. And then he kind of was like, "Are you for real?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's just any other business. I mean, it's just a business."
Yeah.
So he went to a local beauty supply place, bought the do rags. I forget how much he bought them for. Like, say he bought them for $1. Then he started selling them to his friends for $3. And he then, from that, within 6 months of leaving the high school, he had made 6 figures selling do rags.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. And so now that has branched off into, he has his own clothing brand. He teaches courses. He does investing. And he, periodically, about every other year, I have him come back and talk to my students. So, yeah. And the name of it, I'm going to shout his business out, but it's Snag-a-Rag.
Okay.
His name of the company. So that's the one young man. And then the other young lady, she created this faucet for the kitchen sink. She made up this like new faucet or something, and then she was able to pitch that to a company. They picked it up, and they, she's been selling them now, and so that company has like branched off, and she has become a millionaire from that as well.
Wow.
And those are just the two I know. So I don't know how many of my students then, like, so I know another student who took a landscaping business that he, said he was going to do in my class, and this is what I was going to do. And I know he does that now full time. That's all he does. But I don't know what his profits are, but I know that there's another student who does that full time. I know another student who wanted to go into construction, and he wants to have his own construction company. And he's out there, working, doing construction and flipping houses. So I don't know like where all of the, I don't have all the data of all the students and what happened, but those are just, some of the students who have come back to me and said, "Hey, I took the business that I did in your class. That was like my foundation of starting, and I jumped, and then I like started, running with it."
How many students are normally in your class?
So I'll just tell you about next year. So next year, I know that 120 students have signed up for my class. And so that'll be 6 sections that I'll be teaching. And that's the highest we've ever had. And that they have to turn students away because I'm the only one that teaches it.
Right. So I, I know it's been a long time for me in high school, a long time ago, but is that normally how you do classes? You sign up a year before?
Yeah. So you sign up your junior year.
But I'm talking about is that your class or all the classes that you
all the classes? Yeah.
See, I can't remember. Okay.
Yeah. So you will say what you're going to take, in the fall, and you ask for the class. But a lot of students are turned away. Like they want to take the class and it doesn't fit in their schedule. Like some of our kids who may be in AP classes and they're in the top classes, that my class may not fit into their schedule because of all the other traditional classes they're taking. So this, the counselors have to say like, "Oh, we're sorry." Or just sometimes it's full and we don't have any more room. But a lot of the students are really interested. And this like past year, I ran a club because it was so many students who wanted to get into the class, they couldn't get into the class. So I ran a investment club. So where we come in and during that, it was like 2 times a week that we would look at stocks and the students would talk about, what they were going to buy in their stock portfolio. And we did the stock portfolio game where they got a demo account and start looking at the charts and things like that. So that was fun too. I'm not doing that next year. It kind of with the classes and that as extra, it was kind of a lot, but yeah, it was also fun. It's so many kids who want to learn and they hear about it and they're so eager to learn. And so that's the thing, but we just don't have enough people to teach. And so also I wanted to know that the state has implemented a financial literacy course for all students. And that's a 1 semester course. It's taught through our social studies department. Most schools teach it through the social studies department. So the difference in what the social studies teachers do in that financial literacy course and what I do in my financial algebra course, let's take taxes, for instance. So the state wants you to know why you should be paying your taxes as a social like obligation,
Yeah.
right? And so they go through and they teach about like why you pay your taxes and where your money
Right.
goes. Where I'm teaching how to do your taxes. And I'm also teaching how to reduce your tax liability, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's a little bit different than what they're doing. They may do a 1040 form and just teach them about filling it out on the front
Hey,
side and never flip it over.
but that's why I only gave you 2 weeks. I said it's gonna last 2 weeks, and they're gonna come in there and shut you down. And God, you showing them how to save on their taxes, how to
Yes,
reduce their taxes, why they should have a business,
yes,
why America's, we're a capitalist society. So,
right.
everybody needs to hear that.
Yeah, I
Wow.
tell them, I said the tax law is really they reward you for having the right behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that right behavior is that, like, if you're reading the tax law, that every, United States citizen should have a business.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have a business, we will reward you because of this, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, where you get into trouble is when you don't have a business.
Right.
And then how they limit how much you can reduce your taxes by. And so they actually penalize you for not having a business. And so we go through that whole scenario. We go through a tax scenario of this is what someone's taxes would be if they didn't have a business. And this is what somebody's business if they did have it. Like this would be their taxes if they did have a business.
Do you
So
talk about network marketing and how a person can start?
I do a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much as like probably I should, just because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
networker. But I just
Right.
talk about there's different types of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about the different type. We talk about some that where you have to create something, and where some another business is where somebody else has already created, and
Rated.
you're just
Right.
doing their products. So the
Right.
same thing like with that do rags. Like so, a lot of people will think I have to make this special something do rag to be able to sell it. It's got to be different. No, he took the same do rags that were in the store and just did a market upsell on it and
Yeah.
then sold them, right?
And he made
And
it
then,
convenient for his people because he carried around with him. So,
correct.
it
And
was
the
convenient.
story. So we talk about that a lot about marketing. So I'm always telling people that because you're young, people will buy from you before somebody will buy from somebody who's older, just because of your story. If you just say I'm a high school student and I have this T-shirt and I have this great, branding and whatever, and I have this message, let's say unstoppable, and you have this T-shirt, and you just like put unstoppable on there, but you have like a whole marketing strategy on how to get out and let people know that you're the one selling it, people will buy
Mm-hmm.
it from you.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that. We talk about that a lot, and we talk about different companies and their marketing strategy. We talk about that during the Super Bowl. Like one of the activities they have is to look at the Super Bowl ads and like what's the story? What's the what was the commercial about? What were they selling? Like let's go see if we can find out how much they made from that Super Bowl. And I'm like, you like for you can do the same exact thing, right? So and it's very interesting conversation. Like it's my kids will come in and be like, Mr. Harrell, did you see Apple stock went down yesterday? Are you buying? Blah blah, you know what I mean? And so it's just interesting. They keep me on my toes too, like
Right.
with the news, because when they get a whiff of it, they're looking at their lives a little bit different. Right,
Mm-hmm.
like when I tell them that Wingstop stock is up like 200% in the last year,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be like, "What Wingstop?" I was like, "Or Chipotle, just had a 50-to-1 split," or
Right. Right.
having those conversations with them, it just makes them more aware, which will be that way for the rest of their life. Because you can't take my course and then just like not be listening for
Right.
these
Right.
money opportunities in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you hear it, it's there.
Right.
It's like a what they call a court reporter or whatever they call it late when they say scratch that from the record.
Mm-hmm.
They heard it already now. So you scratch it from the record all you want. The jury has already heard it. So the kids have already heard it. So
right.
All right. So what do you do for adults? You said that you kind of teach that same class for adults.
Yeah. So what I've done is I have different courses. that people can take that I will, I usually run at least once a month. Like I
Mhm.
normally do the budget class more often because that's where most people need to start is to like think
Okay.
about their money in a different way, budget in a different way, make room in their budget. Like, no, I really truly believe like where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. I can look at your budget and where you're spending your money and say, this is what you value. And a lot of times, what we value doesn't match up to where our money is going. So we'll say, oh, this is what I value. But then when you look at your budget, be like, no, you value eating.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
We can see
most of
that.
your money is going towards you eating out, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of like the my most popular course is that budget course. But then I do a taxes course as well, and I get this is funny because even though I teach this all the time and I've been teaching it for years, because I'm not an accountant, I'm not a tax advisor, I'm not like a financial planner, that I've gotten pushback for adults, and I'm like, no, I'm not teaching you. I'm teaching you how to be prepared for your tax preparer.
Hmm.
So most adults either do an easy form or they have someone prepare their taxes. And so I was like, has your tax preparer said to you, if you get a business next year, you're going to get way more money back on your
Right.
taxes? you
Right.
know, Most of them don't do that. They only take what you give them and then prepare your taxes. They don't
Right.
give you any kind of strategy on how to make it better next year. Even though
Right.
they know they have clients that come in with your same profile, but then they know more than what you know, and their taxes, they're giving them a $6,000 refund, and they're telling you you owe 6,000. And so they never give you any type of strategy because they're not teaching either how to to
Right.
understand the tax laws. And so that's kind of what I
And
do. I don't,
one of the challenges with that too is soon as a person hears that, they think, well, I'm not a business person. I don't want to be a business. I can't sell. I can't do all those things. Well, the IRS says that you just must attempt to do business. So if you set up a business and you attempt to do it, then
right.
you can get the same write-offs. It
Yeah,
doesn't say that
absolutely.
you have to be a super salesperson or you
No,
got to
nowhere
have
in
a
the
brick
tax
and mortar.
law. Yeah, nowhere in the tax law does it say you have to make money.
Right, 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 right,
I mean,
right, right,
you want to, but nothing in the tax law says, you can only get this deduction if you make money. Like, no,
right.
there's nothing in there that says that. But it does say that if you go out to eat and you're amongst friends and you talk about your business, that now you qualify for a deduction.
And let me say this. I'm not bigging him up because he
Mhm.
loves to be bigly, as he says. But Trump said in one of the debates when they kept asking about did he pay taxes, and he says he finally said, "I know the law."
Right.
That's why. And people missed that. They
Right.
missed all of that. When he said that. And when you know the law and the things that you can write off and things you can't.
Right. Yeah, I
Because
mean,
guess
that's
guess
fine.
what? I mean, who makes the laws? The congressmen and the senators, right? What are they? Businessmen, right? So they
Absolutely.
making the laws for them.
Right. That's why I said that the law is the law is designed to reward certain behaviors.
Hmm.
And if you are following those certain behaviors, then it's going to reward you. If it's not, you're going to be penalized. And so one of the things, especially tax law, it rewards you for having a business. And it
Right.
doesn't, mean like it doesn't mean that you have to have some superstar, like elaborate business. It could be, like I said, it could be as simple as you making candles in your kitchen. It could be that you're a teacher and that you do tutoring. It could be something that you're already doing, but now you attach an LLC or EIN to it. And then now it gives you all of these tax write-offs. And
So
so, mhm.
go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was
Well,
saying, and a lot of times people will want to go because of their loving nature. They want to like have a nonprofit. But I will say, there's nothing wrong with having a profit and a nonprofit, but I would have that profit making some business, getting some tax deductions, and then go to that nonprofit because there's still just way more tax deductions available to a for-profit business as well.
Right. So what I was about to say, if people want to reach out to you and or questions, or they want to take one of your classes or something like that, how do they do that?
So the easiest way is to go to my website. So that's why I put my middle name, because it's just AngelaWinnett.com.
Okay. Okay.
And so, or also, Instagram is Angela Winnett as well. Send me a DM. That's another way to reach out to me. Facebook, it's all of it. It's Angela Winnett Harrell. So those are the best mediums to get in touch with me. And I love to come in. So I love to come in and speak and do speaking engagements as well. That's my big thing. Because I've gone to, I've done speaking engagements. I'm a Delta, but I've done speaking engagements for our sorority. I've done speaking engagements for AKAs recently, Jack and Jill. And I've done age range from 4th grade all the way to adults. That was exciting. I talked to 4th grade classes this year. They brought me in to speak and teach them, these little people, about entrepreneurship. It was awesome. Right? So you're talking to like 9 and 10-year-olds, and we did a whole unit on entrepreneurship, and a day spent where these little minds were like, oh man, I can have my own business. So that was awesome. So I can speak to anyone about, and it could be like per topic. So you can come in and have me talk about a topic. It could be about investing. It could be about budgeting. It could be about the taxes and make sure that you are prepared for your tax season. And so any of those different things. So you can have me where you take my courses. You can have me where I come in and I speak, to your things. And too, so many different school systems are trying to incorporate now this financial literacy, financial algebra. Our kids are just because of social media, I believe that they are very, very inquisitive now and wanting to learn about taxes and investing, so that a lot of school systems are also looking for ways to incorporate this. So I'm more than more than wanting to come in to talk to people about that as well.
All right, last thing. What else you have to say? What would you want to say to people listening?
I would say that it's time to take your head out the sand and really have some up close and personal conversations about finances for yourself, because knowledge is the thing. So a lot of us are working so hard to leave a legacy for our kids, right? So whether it's you're working a job and you have this insurance, I think most of us now at least know to have an insurance policy. But if you leave your children, you don't know? I
don't know. Some of our people are allergic to that, man.
Something you gotta have. I think a lot of people are, at least whether it's a house or whether it's you're thinking about when I leave here, I'm gonna leave this, whatever this is. But if there's no knowledge behind that, then those offsprings that you have or that next generation, they're just gonna waste it. And it's not gonna live past your legacy the way you want it to. So it's time for you to start learning about finances and then have the knowledge so then you can teach other people. So we have to have a conversation too. I have a whole thing about how I taught my daughter about using credit, and a different conversation than what my mother had with me about credit. My conversation with my mother was just, girl, don't you go out and spend money on those credit cards. That was it. That was it. And there's using credit properly is a whole money making activity in itself. And so, and just like I said, investing and having financial freedom. Like I told my daughter, I said, the name of the game is to become financially independent. And that's not rich. Financial independence is when you have more residual income than you have residual expenses. And so you need to figure out streams of income that you can match with your residual expenses. And that's where freedom comes in. And so having that conversation, she's 23 with a 780 credit score and no student loans, and total different place than where I was at 23. And that's, for me, the biggest legacy that I can leave my daughter is that knowledge, and my son too, that knowledge of what to do with the money and how to make it. That's what I want to do for people.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I thank you for your time. I know you got another meeting to run to, and man, we got to do this again. you know, probably in the next couple of months, talk a little bit more about it. And y'all know how to reach her, Miss Angela Harrell. She gave you all. We'll put it up on the screen too. We're gonna put everything that she said on how to reach out to her. But this has been another episode of Elite Psyche, the Mental Toughness Show. And again, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.